Hey there, beings, people, other digital things. You are watching Help Be Mine. You are watching my self-awareness journey unfold. I've been on YouTube sharing all different types of thoughts, concepts, conversations, and I'm inviting you all to journal with me as we dissect and think beyond the surface level with those conversations. So if this is your first time here, hey, you can call me Dear Danny. That could be your self-investment storyteller or your study partner in self-awareness. However, I am just a person, a being on the internet trying to practice positive thinking, trying to exist. And even though I'm calling this a self-development journey and personal development, it's really just about how do we get through those type of journeys and those sessions to just existing and being the best version of ourselves without it being like, okay? But we have to think. One of the powerful things that we can do is think a little bit more deeper. So today I want to think with you all. I want to share with you a podcast session that I had with a young lady named Kennedy. She is a dog trainer, and the way that she approaches dog training really got my noggining. And I want to share with you all just a little piece of our interview together, pull a little bit of my Dear Danny segment where I'm just going to kind of give you my raw response. How did I respond to this? Why did I think this was good for journaling? And then together we'll come up with a journal question. But before we get into it, I want to say a special thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Keen. Thank you, Keen, for sponsoring today's video. Keen is an incredible resource that perfectly complements your self-awareness journey, a platform designed to elevate your quest for self-discovery, just like an introspective act of journaling. Through Keen, you can connect with experienced spiritual advisors, uncovering topics on love, relationships, personal growth, self-discovery, and wellness. Consider Keen.com as a conversation, the catalyst for self-awareness and experiments. Imagine approaching Keen.com with your journaling ideas, embracing the power of diverse thought, and connecting with experienced mentors who will help you uncover the hidden gems within. It's where your attentions meet a diverse world of perspective, exploring the profound questions that lead you toward a deeper understanding of yourself. You can kickstart that journey in your first 10 minutes would be just $1.99 using my link, www.king.com/helpbemind. Click, connect, and come prepared with your thoughtful questions. All right, so I'm going to play this part of our conversation with you all. Then I'm going to come back and share my Dear Danny, just a little bit of backstory. So again, Kennedy is a dog trainer. This part of the podcast was about shock trainers. So it's a shock training. A dog is using these shockers in order to like get them into obedience, right? It's almost like spanking a child to make them obedient. And I have my perspective on that. We won't go into today, but it's very similar to what we're hearing now. So let me go ahead and play this out. I'll put Kennedy's picture on the screen with her dogs, and then we'll come back for some review.
Yeah, so this is a really big topic in the dog training community. And I will say that personally, the American Veterinary Society has released a statement that says shock collars are aversive. They don't help. There is no training benefit that cannot be achieved through positive reinforcement, and they hurt the relationship between the dog and owner. So I do not ever find a need to use shock collars. I also find if you go through the humane hierarchy, so the humane hierarchy starts at the least aversive and goes up to the most aversive, which is shock collars, negative punishment, stuff like that. If you start at the bottom, I've never had to go up to the top, because there is always a way to communicate with the dog in a way that they understand without using aversives, and only using positive reinforcement and using management and putting them in situations they can handle, not putting them in situations they can't handle and then punishing them for not being able to handle it. So instead, there's always a way to work around it. The problem is that sometimes it's the harder way, and sometimes it's more frustrating, and sometimes it takes way longer. But the thing is that I don't think that dogs should be punished for not knowing English and for not understanding the ways of our society, and I don't think that they should be punished for not conforming to us quickly enough. So I think that it is our duty to, if we expect a dog to do something, we have to train them in a way that they can understand and a way that benefits them as well. So yeah, the science does not back using e-collars, and so neither do I. So managing the situation so that the dog does not become aggressive. So First of all, you figure out the dog's triggers, what makes the dog aggressive, what has to happen in order for them to be aggressive, and you manage the situation so that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of dogs who are food aggressive, and so to manage that situation, you give them their food in a crate where nobody will come near them, and then they don't get aggressive because they're not anxious that somebody's going to take their food. So first of all is identifying triggers and managing those triggers before you ever even start any counter conditioning and desensitization, because then we make it so that the dog feels safer all around and that they don't have to practice those undesirable behaviors.
So that was the clip from the podcast interview with Kennedy. And I want to give my Dear Danny about it. Dear Danny, it's just my raw thinking response. So the reason why I have a disclaimer for this is, I want to approach all of these conversations with dearness and Danny, where it's not, you can't be mad when somebody say Danny, you can't be mad at Danny, okay? But I want to give my response in a way where, it's received and it's understood that this is my raw thinking and there's so much more for me to explore, and I'm on a self-awareness journey, okay? When I was listening to Kennedy in our initial conversation, I was thinking, wow, like America? Why did I say America? Because there was this point when she was speaking about managing the environment. I had a question about the dogs that had been treated with, spankings or shock collars or aggressive. Like, how do you even approach that? And in my mind, in this reflection, I'm thinking about people who are in this environment and they are trying their best to survive America and survive Earth, and everyone is saying, you gotta do this, or you gotta just do that, and you gotta do that, and it's not making sense, or it's not falling in place easy. It's almost as if, we're trying to understand how to maneuver Earth, but we're all just making a big mess. We're making a big mess by putting it in all of these shocks. These shock collars. What are these shock collars? Where she mentioned this fear of getting your food taken away. We don't have the decency to even have our food because we don't know what's going to happen the next day. We don't know how we're going to respond. And because we're all responding to fear in a lot of ways, that fear turns into us driving each other crazy. And for lack of better words, because this is raw thinking, have mercy on me, we have all these different avenues that we have to go back into and to pay for in order to get our mental well-being back into place. But really, where's the root of all of this? Where's the root of thinking like, hey, this doesn't seem right. Who's doing this stuff? When she spoke about training, I think about the training concept and how do we properly train one another? And how do we properly manage our environment to a point where we're not fearing one another and we're not doing anything that gives us so much place to be aggressive? Because that starts somewhere. Some may say it starts with sin. Some may say that it starts with all of the manipulation. Some may say that it starts with people stealing land and then doing all types of crazy things. However it may be, when do we get to a point where we can identify that something is wrong together as a collective and then do something about it? How do we start those conversations? Because we have lots and lots of conversations that are very political. We have lots of conversations that divide us from red and blue and left and right. But when do we have conversations on what exactly is true? What is humane? What is order? What is decency? Why is that conversation so different? Why are we training one another to fear each other? Why are we not training one another to cooperate in this collective in a way that benefits all of us? Why is that such a hard ask? I had to really work on that word, ask. Because you know what? There are rules about saying the word ask. Knowing that I grew up in an environment where I can naturally say ask, but there's so many different rules that really restrict us. We need to start creating rules, right? Because we still need some order that actually liberates us, benefit us, but with also understanding these things to consider. We don't want to get rules that just liberate us of all responsibility and then we think that we can just take advantage of kindness and decency and order. We try to operate where everybody collectively can benefit. That means you have to take up your responsibility, even if that's your self-awareness and understanding, hey, I may have learned this bad behavior from the past, but I understand that something is wrong. Expose yourself to other communities and experiences and situations so you can understand that maybe the way that you're thinking is not contributing to society. And it doesn't take a lot of power. It doesn't take a lot of thought to realize that seems off. I don't know, maybe it does take a lot of thought. And if that's the case, we collectively need to support and have grace with one another. But that's the end of my Dear Danny segment. Again, I'm just raw thinking. I'm just really thinking how I am as I continue on the self-awareness journey. Maybe you guys will have any feedback Like, why do you think that's not possible if you want to go on that truth? Why do you think that we have to be divided between red and blue? Tell me exactly how that supports us to be divided. And once you tell me that, then I'll consider you and I'll look at it and I'll try to understand it. But I really want you to understand why you think the vision, if that's your case, is good. Anyone who wants to add any feedback, please add them in the comments. But lastly, friends, before we close out, what journal question would you present to yourself based off of what Kennedy shared? This is our way of being creative with our thinking. Was there anything that you pulled from what she said? I know I pulled this most interesting concept about dog training, but everything that she said was human social work. And she worked in human services, or she went to school for human services. And I kept thinking, wow, this is social work, what she's doing. She's really helping the community with her perspective and her mindset, and even with her dog training. And I just wonder, how else can we tap into being human social workers as a collective? Instead of just one group thinking and caring about the humanity, how can we all think about it? So I'll have that as a general question. How can we contribute to humanity in a social work lens? That's the question for today. And consider this. What do you love to do? What do you think that you're good at? What do you think you add to this world? Let's say that you work in sales. How can you use how you operate in sales in a way that contributes to human work and still be good at what you do? Explore that thought. Let me know in the comments what you come up with. If there are any other questions, feedback, let me know as well. Until next time, hold on to you as much as you can. Hold on to your health, your well-being, and your mind. Be mindful. Bye. This experience is brought to you by PeaceEquations.com. Choose life, choose joy, choose peace over chaos.